Greetings. I am Dr. Noni Davis, and I'm coming to you from St. C Academy, African Center School here in North Carolina. And I am a legacy owner. I inherited this, I co founded with my parents and my late father, William Edward Davis, and my mother, Sylvia Davis. And we are in our 30th year, and we just give thanks for that. And so today I wanted to talk about this amazing, incredible book that I read that is, I recommend to all Black people because it is a very thought provoking. Um, it'll make you check your Blackness. Where are you on the Blackness spectrum? So, the name of the book is A Sky Full of Elephants, and it's a book that I recently read, and I was part of I'm still part of this reading group. Um, it was written by Sibo Campbell. He is an African American man from Brooklyn, New York, and he's a writer, he's a novelist, he is a filmmaker, a designer, and a screenwriter. So if you are interested in seeing some of his other stuff, his name is Sibo Campbell. And let's see. And so my reading group, we're all it's about 150 people, male and female, who are moving through this book. It doesn't have too many pages. Um, I read a lot, so I read this book in about it's got 288 pages. I read in about 2 or 3 days because I was just every chapter made me go, wow. So this story, I'm gonna just give you a synopsis. I don't want to go too deep because I want to focus on what the things that I got from the book. This story of A Sky Full of Elephants is very interesting. It's a little sci-fi, Afrofuturism, contemporary in the sense of where African Americans are politically and socially right now. Um, and it's provocative. It's very provocative, but it's just an interesting. I don't know where you would necessarily place this. I mean, folklore kind of. I don't know. But the book is set in America, and it follows the life of an African American man and his daughter, uh, it, who is he has been incarcerated, has been uh, demonized by this narcissistic, racially and socially perverse society. The author skillfully creates a wide spectrum of characters that reflect the levels of self acceptance of Blackness in our community. So, when I say a spectrum, we're all somewhere on the spectrum. Some of us are all black, 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 black. Some of us are in between that and black power. Some of us are black, but we acquiesce maybe a little bit. We're black excellence, black social class. We are black capitalist, and I'm not anti-black capitalist. I'm just saying that's a spectrum. And then you have those who are anti-black, all the way to people who just like hate black people, and they are like these MAGA people who just despise their blackness and are okay with white supremely stupid behavior. Anyway, so the Campbell introduces how these extremes of blackness, of our self-acceptance of ourselves, um, how these extremes manifest after an event where all the white people in America become mesmerized, transfixed, by this unseen force that causes them to walk in the water, whatever body of water they are near, and drown. And so entire families and entire white communities of people drown themselves and disappear and do not return. So the author introduces us to this girl of mixed race ancestry, and her father is the other main personality in this book. She's Afro-European, and she doesn't know who her father is. She just knows that he ain't white, pretty much. And she's raised in this northern community where it's all white, predominantly white. So she has developed this anti-black perspective because she doesn't know who she is. She doesn't have any history. She doesn't, and so she all of the stereotypes that are made about black people she has embraced, and she thinks whiteness is the way to go. And so it's interesting because you get to witness her journey. So, but she is there on the day that this event happens, and and her family lives on a lake, and she watches her brothers, her younger brothers, who are white, her stepfather, who is white, and her mother, who is white, walk into the lake behind her house, and it shows her trying to save them, trying to pull them back up, but she said they were like became like bricks. Their bodies became stiff and they just sank to the bottom. And this happened all over America. And so the young woman is able to, she's unable to stop them, and she's devastated to be left behind. Her family life was completely Eurocentric, fully indoctrinated with, like I said, stereotypes of African Americans and dripping in self denial, anti blackness. This girl is. So, like I said, the story begins with her black father who is imprisoned on a false accusation for the last 20 years. And his incarceration ends when the white prison guards, uh, when the prisoners realize that the white jailers, the prison guards, all of them never arrived to work. And then after a few days, they're like, wait a minute, we're in these cages, we can't get out and stuff like that. So they have to break out. Somebody manages to help them get out, maybe one of the other jailers, the black jailers or whatever. And they return to a society where there are no white people in it. And so the author has given us a chance, I mean, gives us a chance in this book to imagine what that would be like. The story moves all across the country. So it stars in New York, I mean, no, Washington, D.C. And this brother has gotten out of jail. He was a really gifted person. He was really smart. He didn't go to college because, he was accused of this crime and ended up, of rape, and he ended up in jail. But he was a techno person. He had, like electricity. He said he used to take radios apart, put them back together. So he was a techie person. And so he gets to go to Howard, and because of the situation, he is now one of the professors there. Look at that. And so he's teaching at Howard University. The structure of the school has changed. People are in classes as long as they like. There's not this rigidity of, you're here, you're here, you're here, meeting all of these uh deadlines and on task, and you're on this hourly, all that is gone. And his daughter finds him, this black girl, black boy, this mixed race girl, black girl. I don't like to say mixed race. So this girl who had multi ethnic girl uh, finds him because she at least knows his name, and calls him and tells her that she needs help. So he decides, okay, and he has never seen her before. So he travels out to the Midwest and he picks her up, and then they have a few racial encounters. And this is where the story really begins. So the story at the beginning is giving you a clue of how and I think it's like a year or two later when I mean, about a year later when the man meets his daughter. So now you get to see how folks have settled in and how they have settled in. So one of the characters in the story, these characters were melanated people who react differently, extremes to the disappearance of these white folks. Some characters experience, like I said, jubilation. They feel freer, and they're able to move on. They others are mourning white folks, the disappearance of these folks. Some folks seem lost. They have lost the compass because maybe they were only seeing themselves through the lens of whiteness. And author creates these characters whose hatred, self hatred, drives them to embrace and dress as Klansmen. And it made me think of the Dave Chappelle character of Clayton Bigsby, who is this blind African American man who thinks he's white and he hates black people. And it's a comic, but he really is anti-hate. Well, this guy Sibo helps brings somebody like who would be like a real life character. He brings a life, and this is not comedy, and it's dangerous, and so it was not funny. There were characters who literally lost their minds as a result of the group suicide of white folks. And um, the author also examines the impact of this Christian religion through a European lens, and how these folks thought that these white folks had been raptured and they were left behind, and so they call them walkers, and they are a whole nother like cult that is like, and these are all brown people, black and brown people who just feel like they have been left behind. Um, so the father is, the girl has to, she has all these stereotypes, and so she's having to fight through these stereotypes to accept her father as who he is, but she has all these preconceived notions about who black people like. Black people are dangerous, black people are and so you see her as she's encountering different people along this journey down south, because they go to Detroit, they go to Chicago, and these are now chocolate cities, right? Washington DC, of course, chocolate city. So now you're getting to see how things just kept going. And in Detroit, they're like, oh, like white people are here, well, we just gonna keep it moving and keep it going. And they were just living their life like, you know all right, this is how we go, how we do it. um but the father decide, trying to meet the girl, but meet the girl on her terms, right? So on her terms, she wants to find this family member who is down south now, and so that's a whole nother thing. She wants to reunite with her mother's family, but and there's a whole bunch of secrets right there, because how did her white mother's sister or in-law survive? So that's a whole thing. So this during this journey, the author showcases the vibe of blackness that is displayed in chocolate cities, like I said, Chicago, Detroit, and then they get down to Mobile. And we see how the vibe at institutions is transformed. The airport, is a whole different experience. Getting food. You see, cars are on the side of the road, have gas and have keys in them. So if you want to use it, you got it. There's not the entire ecosystem of capitalism and stuff has completely dissipated. The final destination is a black southern city in Alabama, which I thought was interesting because last week I was talking about how in Alabama the U.S. Colored troops were the ones that ended pretty much ended. They were the last critical bot battle of the Civil War was in Alabama. And I think the last war was in Texas, but 5,000 U.S. Colored troops defeated the Confederacy in and ended the Civil War at the level it was. And this was in Africatown, right down the street from Africatown, and also right down the street from Mobile, Alabama. And we know Mobile, I mean, Alabama got so much history. You got Tuskegee Airmen. You've got, like I said, this Civil War battle that I had never heard about until I started reading Barracoon. And then yeah, and to watch the documentary about Africa Town and how these were the last people to come on the ship Clotilda. These are the descendants. These people were brought here. They were kidnapped from Benin, Nigeria, Dahomey area, and were brought in 1860s. It was illegal for anybody to even go to Africa at this point. To the slave trade was illegal, so for them to even be kidnapped, but these people were kidnapped right before the end of the Civil War, like right before the war began, and it ended right there in Africa Town. Crazy. And so you got that, you've got the civil rights movement, you've got the bus boycott in Montgomery, you've got uh, uh, Alabama, I mean, the universities, the HBCUs there. And so this has been a strategic state. And in that Mobile, Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, all of those areas, you have warriors. I mean, that's where I think that's isn't that where the Black Panther movement kind of got started. I think it was Black Panther. They called us those Black Panthers down there, moving going from Selma to Montgomery. I mean, so it is such a powerful state when it comes to Black folks resisting um, the slavery, resisting their rejection of their civil rights, fighting on all kinds of levels, and demanding their humanity. So I thought it was very strategic that he would pick Mobile, Alabama, with all of its history there. So, like I said, this location is to be an oasis of blackness, beauty, brilliance, self-love, elevation. The people in this community live harmonious. He came upon this community. So the author plants or creates a community in Mobile that has, I mean, their blackness is straight. Okay, I just put it like that. It's an oasis of blackness, beauty, brilliance, self love, elevation. In this community, people live harmoniously with nature and with each other. It is a Ubuntu village because I am, you are. In this village, the father is transformed from an insecure, defeated convict, trying to learn how to be a father and dispel those stereotypes that his daughter has accepted about Black people. Um, his daughter his daughter has a Black people and he becomes a fully developed person who embraces, loves, reverberating the joy of his Blackness. So you have him where his daughter simultaneously is also having to face these demons of anti-Blackness that she has developed. And her view of herself, she didn't like at the beginning. You see her struggling with her physical features, struggling with her skin, struggling with her hair. And at a point in this book, she is finally like seeing herself and accepting the way she looks and seeing it as beautiful through the eyes of those folks who she has now met in this community. Um, she's a child of two colors, and she ends up confronting her mother's family and learning a family secret, like I said earlier. Other interesting threads in this story include the access and development to technology. So I remember some years ago when I watched a documentary about the pyramids, and there was an elder, this African, uh, Afro-Egyptian Nubian, uh, um, guide, who said that people really didn't understand what the technology of the pyramids was. He claimed that these pyramids were uh, had were operated on these frequencies, and folks that were not well could walk through some of these, some one of the pyramids, Giza, and the frequencies would detect whatever ailment you had and cure you. And so we do know that there is something about sound medicine and wavelengths and stuff like that. And I know there are folks who are exploring those practices for healing. And I know we do it with meditation. We know sound is very powerful, but that this area in Mobile has all these obelisks. And I was like, God, chickens all over the city. And they are, and one of the things that's said in this book is that it gives you uh it tells you that it's like it's electrifying. The city has an energy, and the energy is coming from, they believe, these towers, these obelisks, these Deccan towers that they have created. And is they're operating in a different frequency. And so in this these obelisks and other structure bases on African ancestral technology and technological knowledge are introduced to this book, are introduced in this book. And so the mystery of white folks walking into the water might be connected to this knowledge too. So that's really crazy. So Sky Full of Elephants is it's an intriguing story that addresses things that black people would never really, we call people, we have these names we call people, call them like coons, and if they're cooning, and all we got these little sayings, all skin folk ain't kin folk. So we know that those things exist. But in this story, he really, Sibo Campbell is pulling out all kinds of, you know, things, like even what is black masculinity? What is female femininity? What is it to live in a space where we're Africans are not fighting women, men and women are not, you don't have these man, woman, female, male wars. You didn't see that. Uh, uh, those that you have these people who have lost their mind because their identity was of who they were was based on what somebody else said. You see them struggling and falling completely apart. And then you see um some folks who just not bothered, and they are not in a black cultural space, but they maintain this capitalistic kind of worldview with a little black slapped on top of it, you know. And so it was just amazing. So I don't want to give all of the details of the book, but it's just fascinating to me. And what one of the things that we've never asked is, what would the world be like if there were no white people here? How would their absence inform our ways of governing ourselves? How would we define ourselves outside of whiteness? Are we black because they are white? Because that really, these colorisms that we have are not are just words that people made up. I'm not black, and other folks are not white. We're shades of brown, and of course, at the same time, the ancient people of Kemet call themselves black. So there's some value in that term, got Black Panther body, Black is beautiful, all of these terms. But we've had to co-opt it to affirm ourselves, right? But really, it's a made up construct. This idea of racism um, is made up. How would our systems evolve? Do African Americans have enough knowledge of our old ways of how we operated before colonialism, so we can reinstate those practices versus continuing in this Eurocentric worldview? Do African Americans, like I said, have enough knowledge? What would we do without a spiritual system grounded in white supremacy with white gods, angels, and cultural values, when we have our own traditions and we believe in the creator? We If you practice a lot of these a lot of our spiritual systems have pantheons. Of course, Christianity would never say it has a pantheon, but it does. It has God, the Son, the Holy Ghost, angels, Mary. That's a pantheon of gods, or people who have powers or whatever. And so each of our spiritual systems, whether it's Kemet or whether it's the Akan or whether it's Ifa, Yoruba, they all have their own pantheon of gods. And we know that the Greeks have pantheon, and we know that the Romans had pantheon of gods. And so all spiritual systems have a pantheon of gods. So of angelic beings, and that's a pantheon. And so what this book makes the reader take a look at themselves and evaluate their place on the spectrum of self-love or self-hatred. Where are we? Are we at are we here where we love ourselves? We don't feel like we have to make apologies for ourselves. Do we accept ourselves as we are? And at the same time, are we accepting humanity, embracing the humanity of all people? Or are we over here thinking that white is right, Black people ain't got no sense, Black people ain't do nothing, Black people can't do nothing? Where are we on the spectrum? And it's not to say that Black people are perfect or without fault, because we're human, right? But it's just interesting. It would be this book was going to make you look at where you are on this spectrum. And I love that about us. Another thing, what is life without policing? What is life without classism? What is life like inside an egalitarian society wherein the king and queen move as equals among the people? And I'm not above you, you're not above me. I might have this position, but I'm not lording it over you. What is life with no monetary economy? What is life without factories hustling and bustling, without pollution, without extracting things out of the earth and decimating the earth and making it life unbearable for other people? What would you do without the white gaze of determining your humanity based on preconceived notions, lies, and social violence? So I encourage everyone to read this book. To read this book. For me, as a student and a researcher and educator of African culture and education systems of government, and of spirituality and history, I believe that I would have definitely immersed myself in this African community. I would have been right at home there, and just living my freedom. But like I said, A Sky Full of Elephants by Sibo Campbell. And go, and see where you stand on the spectrum of blackness. Ashe, ashe, oh.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them, with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So tell me here, you can do it if you try.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I walk into the sound of drums.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I know my mom.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I can play the drum.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I can work with my hands.
I'm a St. Cia student.